Today's guest is someone who spent nearly 3 decades at the intersection of accounting, technology, and the future of the profession. While many of us have experienced accounting from the inside of firm, Seth Fineberg has had a front row seat to the entire profession. As a journalist, editor, analyst, consultant, and founder of Accountants Forward, he has interviewed countless accountants, firm leaders, and technology innovators, giving him a unique perspective on where the profession has been and where it's headed. Throughout his career, Seth has helped accountants navigate change, embrace innovation, and think differently about the challenges and opportunities facing the profession. From technology adoption and firm culture to talent shortages and AI, he's been part of some of the most important conversations shaping accounting today. I'm excited to explore the lessons he's learned from decades of observing the profession, what he believes the future holds for accounting firms, and the advice he would give leaders looking to build successful firms in an increasingly changing world. Please join me in welcoming Seth Fineberg to Protea Conversations. Seth, welcome to Protea Conversations.
Hey, Zane. Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited for this conversation. And where I
I always love talking to you, man. I do. I'm going to admit it right here. Like, I could just talk to you like anywhere.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk a lot today, but like in my research, and like I knew this in my head, but sometimes like, the synapses don't click properly, right?
Sure. Happens.
You're not an accountant?
No, not only am I not an accountant, I never took an accounting course. I never took a business course in my life. My path is a unique one, but I feel like it gives me what I need. And I'll get into that. But I like to start off by saying my superpower is my perspective.
Yeah, it was, I knew this, like that fact lived in my brain, but Seth
I am
Fineberg
accepted
and
by
accounting.
them.
Yeah, I
Like
feel like
Jane
it's
Goodall was
account-
accepted by the chimps.
Yeah.
I am accepted by accountants.
I love that we're calling accountants chumps.
No, hardly. But
Some of us are,
they're
for
highly
sure.
functional things. They have their habits and things like that. But she spent so long, with these creatures, these beings, these distant cousins, some might say. But they have their own way of doing things. They have their own sort of habitats. They have their own. They're very social. They're very very family oriented. They're very very connected. They're emotional. They're a lot of things. But she was obviously a human. She's not one of them, but she spent enough time with them, among them, that she was accepted, and she began to care in her studies, in her observation, because you can't not, and that is very relevant to, I think, our talk here today and why I started the business that I did.
Really interesting. Well, let's go, and we'll come back to the career side, but we were talking about this a little, off camera, was just about parenting, right? And we're both in very different stages. You have teenagers. I have an 8 and a 10-year-old. You're out in the big old rough and tumble New York, and I'm in California in the protected suburbs of Marin County. Tell me about parenting in New York. Like, that's got to be wild.
I get asked that a lot, and it's just what you know. I mean, my wife and I have been New Yorkers. We were both born, we both followed similar paths. We were both born here. She's born in the Bronx. I was born in Brooklyn. I still have a little bit of family in Brooklyn. I did for years, like around holidays and stuff, we would travel in. But at a very, very young age, my parents just had the wherewithal to go, you know what? We just don't want to raise our kid in the city. Let's see what the suburbs have to offer. So I went into the wilds of New Jersey. I spent my childhood there. My wife bounced around. She lived in Detroit. She lived in Palo Alto for a little bit. She lived in New Jersey as well. We eventually found each other. And the city just became just this thing that we know and that we love and can't really imagine ourselves outside of, at least not at this phase of life. At some point, it's going to wear itself thin. But with the kids, since we kind of had a bit of a taste of both urban and suburban upbringing, we decided that having an urban upbringing, we have a lot of choices. We have lots of conveniences. I never have to get into a car to take a kid anywhere to do anything. There are endless amounts of activities and stimulation, particularly for the Gen Z that they are. and even the alphas that you have, they kind of thrive on that. They are natural multitaskers. And also just the diversity, the culture, the just everything. You know, they don't go to school with kids that just look and dress and talk like them. That was essential to us as parents. If we were going to be parents, which we both, wanted to be after we met each other, we just knew like we're it. We're partners for life. And, raising children here just meant that they kind of have sort of the best of everything, spoiled, if you will, in that regard. But yeah, I think it's afforded us that. And even the public schools here, we don't have to necessarily put them on a bus or drive them to it. We kind of lucked out. I mean, it's a big city, and they do go to a school with kids from the outer boroughs who do have to commute in on public transport, and they're fine with that. Like if we moved anywhere in the city, which any move would likely do, they're comfortable enough on public transit, and just all of their friends come in from elsewhere. But the public schools here, they're most of them are pretty high functioning. They teach in a way that is focuses on the individual versus the curriculum.
Uh-huh.
And they balance that out, and they really just kind of get the kids ready for critical thinking and also just life, and life beyond grade school. They start with a lot of the organizational stuff in sixth grade. My kids happen to go to a school that's 6 to 12. There aren't a ton of those here in the city, so we felt really, really lucky when we found one that not only we have to think about, oh, well, where are they going to go to high school, and what kind of education are they going to have, but we didn't have to think about school at all for 7 years. And yeah, they can walk there, which again, rare.
Yeah.
So that's beyond just living in the city, but it gives you that option.
Yeah.
And being the foodies that we are too, and the entertainment and arts people that we are, we have it. We have it in spades. Anything you want to do. I'm also I'm an active musician. My wife is as well. I've been in the same band for about 22 years, and it's you can just do it. Well, not that we don't play out of town, but playing locally and being locally, and the kids too. They can be kids. They've learned to ride bikes and scooters and play on playgrounds, and they play sports. My son's captain of his baseball team for high school. I was a coach, actually. I was a baseball coach for 10 years because they were both at a 4-year difference. So I overlapped being each coach. One sort of transitioned on. I was like, you know what, you don't need me as your coach. You can have other people coach you, and plus he went on to other levels of baseball that didn't revolve around parent coaching.
Yeah.
Which I did, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and I didn't think I would. I was absolutely awful at baseball, even though I love the sport. I just was not an athlete at all. My kids are super athletes. I don't, my wife and I look at each other. We're like, where does this come from? Like she did like track and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and I played little league. I liked it. I was just awful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And my kids are upper level with that.
Yeah, I feel you. I have
Sorry,
two.
long-winded answer, but
No, it's a great
that's
answer, and
life here.
I got a lot
It's
of
life in
follow-up questions and notes. So
New York City, and life
yeah,
being
yeah,
a parent here, and I just you just know what you know, and I can't see it any other way.
yeah. On the athlete side, I feel you. I have two kids that are extremely athletic, doing extremely well at sports at a high level, and
So you're
yeah.
throwing them in a car and taking them to wherever they need to be.
Well, they're in gymnastics, so I get to take them in a car, drop them off, disappear for 3 hours, and come back. So
Okay, you can do that.
it's a little easier.
Yep. And we did that too. We have like sort of an indoor sort of rec facility that has gymnastics, it has soccer, it has, my youngest did like it was called ninja parkour, which was
Hmm.
basically gymnastics for boys, even though it was co-ed. And he was in the class with Alec Baldwin's youngest daughter.
Wow.
So I would see Alec like
Yeah.
at drop off, like, because there's like an area where like parents can kind of
Yeah.
hang out, have their coffee, and just
Yeah.
sort of watch from like a balcony kind of thing. They can watch their kids tumble and fall and do all that stuff. So nice dude, just a good parent. Like he just showed up with like everything for them.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you the question, who's like the most famous person that you've run into day to day life? So
He was not,
yeah, so
almost.
who is it? Because that feels like if you live in LA or New York, everybody's got a story of that my kid went
There's
to this activity with this person.
so many. Oldest was friends with from about second grade all the way through middle school. He was friends with Vincent D'Onofrio's son. So I would see Vincent actually lives in my neighborhood. I see him infrequently these days. He's been pretty busy, but we've been over to their house and stuff like that. Halloween was really big, so they would do this big like Halloween party for the kids, invite them over. And giant of a human, but sweet, sweet man. So yeah, Vincent interacting with you would see comedians like Bob Odenkirk and Dave Cross. We would see them from time to time. You could name drop all day long. Just people that were in the neighborhood. I used to live in my old neighborhood. I would see all kinds of people. Edie Falco, Stanley Tucci, and the late another very very sweet man who was a really great parent. I would see him with his kids all the time. It was well before I had kids, but he had these little cute redheaded kids who are much probably grown now. It's the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. Philip was I would see him at the bars and stuff like that. We were friendly. Like not like we're gonna go hang out, but he would see me out and be like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And yeah, I asked him how the kids are, and big tragic loss there. Peter Dinklage too. He was in my old neighborhood before anyone knew who he was. He was in an indie film called The Station Agent, which I remember seeing. I was like, it's him. But I could go on and on and on. But there's tons of people that you just see all the time. Oh, I was just at my local bar, and he's a fan of one of these local bands,
Hmm.
Jared Harris. Like Jared was just hanging out there. I got to talk to him. I'm like, you're Jared Harris. You're awesome. I love your acting.
Well, my most famous New York City story is in the early days, I had a client out there and I'd go over 3 times a year. And I had this celebrity who had a wine brand and considered working with us. So he said, hey, let's meet up. I'd like to meet you in person before we do it. So I ended up at a diner across from Grand Central Station, sharing a plate of sliders with Kyle MacLachlan from
Kyle,
Twin
yeah,
Peaks
yeah,
fame.
yeah. You kept thinking, damn fine piece of pie.
Yeah, just literally sitting there, just eating a plate of sliders. He was a little awkward and uncomfortable talking to me, but we just had an hour just chatting. Most surreal moment, and
Trying to think of the diner that's over
it might have
there.
been a bit more than a diner. It could have been just like a restaurant, but in my mind, it had that like bar seating. We were sitting at the bar seating, so it felt
Yeah.
very
All right. So
diner-esque, but it was probably a little bit more.
Pershing Square. It's a place called
Yeah,
Pershing Square. It's pretty popular with like the business crowd. Quick lunch. Yeah, you could sit at the bar
yeah.
and eat.
But it was like 3 o'clock on a Wednesday or something random. So there
Yeah, it
was
was probably
him and
there.
I and maybe two
It's a
other
big
people.
place.
Yeah. But that is it. Tell me about the band. What type of music? What's the band called? Where do you guys play?
We are a hardcore punk rock band. We are influenced by some of the greats, Minor Threat, Black Flag, Circle Jerks, Negative Approach, on and on. Bands from the early '80s, kind of that sort of second wave of punk rock that you know came hard and fast and aggressive, angry, and we do it well. We're not trying to reinvent anything. We just love playing that style. I'm with four dudes or three other dudes. We're four dudes, but with three other dudes who just get it. And we've been playing together for 22 years. We're called Blackout Shoppers. We've got 3 albums out. We've toured a bit when we can because we're all working fools. Our bass player is also a parent. He's got 3 kids. And so we do what we can. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, endless places to play in New York City. We have our spots that will have a band like us. We've played some festivals. We've played the furthest away I think we've played Texas a couple times. Played Oklahoma. We've played in Tennessee, Arkansas. Our drummer's from Arkansas, so like he knew like the whole sort of like Southern Midwest circuit that we could do. But we have aspirations to go up in Canada, and I'd love to play out in California. I'm like, guys, we could just fly out there, do like several days, and fly home. It's not that difficult to do. It would be like our holiday. We would just have to sort it out. We'd have to get, transportation and share equipment, things like that, which we've had to do when we've flown, like our last big tour like that. We flew into Memphis, but we had a driver. We had somebody, a friend of ours, who picked up a big Suburban, and we were two bands actually. So with all of our clothes, our merch, our limited gear, because you can't, you don't want to bring like all of your drums and amplifiers and stuff like that, like on a plane. So we just had like guitars, basic drum stuff, and our merch and all of our suitcases and stuff like that. And off we went, and we ended up in Dallas, Texas. So I was over like 5 days, and we did like a kind of a loop, and then we flew home. Yeah, I mean, look, we're all, other than one of us, we're all in our 50s, and it keeps us young.
No, it's so awesome. It's always great to have something outside of the day job, and having something like that you got a real passion for is
I
amazing.
wrote a whole article about that a few years back. That it was one of the first things I put in my newsletter, and I also put it in CPA trend lines as well, about finding your other.
Hmm.
Like I met so many accountants that just have, like, that's what really makes them do what they do and allows them to do what they do. It really can be such a grind, serving clients and doing the work that you do, having something else that also defines you, that also is you, is so essential. Like I met I'm a big fan of this band. They're like a metal band from Canada called Ken Mode, and all but one of the members is an accounting professional. There was one woman in the band. She runs her own bookkeeping service. Then there's two brothers in the band. They inherited the firm from their dad. They run a firm together. They do tax and books, and their niche is entertainment. Anyone in the arts. So it helped, it helps them along with their stuff. And then you know, obviously we've known people who do, rap and hip hop or comedy, or the softball coach, on and on and on. And it's great when you just see these other layers to people, because at the end of the day, when we can come as our authentic selves, that's really where the magic happens. People want to be around people who are real, and you know everyone has layers and everyone has sides to themselves that they don't let out as much. But, when you kind of come off as genuine and authentic, I mean, I think it really helps you a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's always, for me, like accounting is my job. It's not who I am. It's just a part
Yeah.
of my day to day. And
Yeah. But you
I
do have
think
a passion for it. I mean, you don't
for
you
sure.
don't go into, of all the accountants that I've met, and many over the 3 decades that I have been overseeing this profession, you don't do this job lightly. You do it because you care.
Hmm.
And therefore, that's why I said earlier, like, why wouldn't I care?
Last question about New York. You mentioned the baseball. I understand you're a pretty big fan. I've seen you get a little creative on
I
X with some comments, some little
Yeah,
snippy
man,
ones here and there.
I especially with what's going on now, between the players union and the owners, and we're gearing up for another fight. Hopefully it won't last long, but we're gearing up, and yeah, I mean, look, I've been, I grew up on the sport. Obviously I grew up a Yankee fan, but I love the game. I love watching the game. I know it's changed. People don't like change all that much. I've accepted most of the way it's changed. I'll gripe about the ways that I don't like it, but I'll still watch. I'll still go. Sorry, you were gonna ask
No,
something else now.
that's perfect. That's perfect. It's always interesting because I am happy to watch baseball, but I haven't really got into it growing up playing and watching cricket. It's just baseball feels like a very slow version of a similar sport. So
Yeah, no, cricket's definitely, there's some similarities for sure.
yeah, there's
Except
a bad ball in fielders. That's about
except
as far as it goes.
cricket can go on, and typically does go on for days. People are like, "Oh my God, I can't sit at a baseball game for hours." I'm like, "Well, have you watch cricket?" And the game also, they've done some things to kind of move the game along. The average time of a game now is gone down over the last like several years. It's instituting things like a pitch clock. So the bowler, pitcher, the pitcher has a certain amount of time to actually set and throw the ball. That's big. People used to like sort of the chess of it. They would step on the mound. They would step off. They would take their time with their pitches. And yeah, and even with, some of the, they can kind of challenge certain things, but even those are mostly they're kind of quick. So it definitely has, moved the game along a bit. I'm not a fan of they've instituted this. Oh, well, if so you play a certain amount of, innings in a game. And after you get to that time, it's called extra innings because baseball games in the regular season do not end in a tie. Somebody has to win. So therefore, there's the time element sort of goes away. It's not timed still to this day. But in order to, I guess, speed it along, they'll put like an extra runner on a base. So it gets them sort of closer to scoring. And I'm not a huge fan of that at all. Like I get it, but both teams sort of get the same advantage, but I just don't particularly like it. I know they finally eliminated that in playoff play, like when you get down to like, you're doing bracket play, they've eliminated it, thankfully.
Yeah, I think that is a dumb rule that they should get rid of. It seems ridiculous to me. I don't I don't think if they really
It
do the
was
math that
it
it's
was a
really
it was a
improved the
COVID
speed of
era.
extra innings.
It was a COVID era thing that, again, they really wanted to kind of move the game along as quickly as they could. And the fact that they left it there, I don't know. I just, yeah, I see the reason for a lot of things that are in modern baseball now. That is one thing I'm just, it's not like, oh, I like the way it used to be because it used to be, and that's what I know and I'm comfortable with. No, I look at it from a logistics point of view and, you know, why people sort of enjoy the game. And it's just kind of like, they
Yeah,
do
I
that
look
in,
at it
they
more
do
from the
that in
business side
Little
of it.
League.
Yeah,
They
but I
do
also
that.
look at it from a business side, right? Like all of a sudden that could give somebody an extra RBI that they wouldn't necessarily deserve. And that can be the
Yeah.
difference of millions on a contract. And
Yeah.
like in my mind, like
Yeah. From a statistics point of view, and baseball is all about the numbers. It's all about not just individual stats too, but just team stats. And it just, I don't, yeah, you're right. And it just throws things also. And we'll get pitchers too. It's a
mhm,
mark against them
yeah,
that, like, I didn't put that runner on. Is that an inherited run on you?
it
You didn't
is.
put them on. You didn't put them on the base.
Yeah.
So
It's
you get
wild.
charged, but you get charged with that guy. Now, in a regular play, if someone gets left on, it's on the other pitcher who put him on, not you. So you know what I mean? Like it just anyway.
Well, it's been a
But I
good
still love
start.
it. I still love the games.
Well, that's good. It's been a good, interesting start to the conversation, but we probably do need to talk a little bit about your day job. So you're a
Okay.
journalist. What the heck does
Yes.
that even mean?
What does it mean anymore? It's definitely evolved for sure. I mean, I guess I'll go into my career. I mean,
Yeah.
I graduated college as an English lit major with a communications minor. I ended up getting I doing an internship in a newsroom for about a year or so, and then they hired me full time, and I got a real taste. I just happened to have a I was lost. I was a lost kid. I didn't know I was going to school just to figure it out. And I took courses that I loved and that helped me to be a better thinker, critical thinker and writer. And I happened to take a course. It was an advanced level course. I had all the prerequisites for it, and I had a professor who, our assignment was to write a featured article. Wasn't a ton of guidance outside of that. It's like pick a topic that you're passionate about, write a feature article. So I wrote my first real feature article. I handed it in for a grade. And not only did I get an A on it, but the professor pulled me aside and she said, "You are a journalist." She said, "You need to be writing." And one of the fun things, she would just be like, she just kind of picked out like titles like, oh, this belongs in Vanity Fair. This belongs in Elle. This belongs in, GQ. This belongs in Rolling Stone. So she knew how I felt about Rolling Stone magazine at the time. And I had a brief idolization of Hunter S. Thompson. And she's like, you could totally write for Rolling Stone. And that just really kind of shook me to my core. And that's when I decided to go down this path. And so the jobs that I started getting were in the trades, trade publications, business trades. I wrote about everything from metals and mining to venture capital and private equity, marketing. I wrote for one of the first internet only publications back in the 90s or so. I've gotten to interview some big people in my day. The biggest, probably Jeff Bezos, back when Amazon, well, because this was back when I was writing about, where money was flowing. Where's venture money going? Well,
Yeah.
back then it was going into all the .com this, .com that, anything internet related. That's where it was going. And Amazon was unique. Amazon was this new breed of what was being called an e-commerce company. And I'm like, what is that? What does that mean? And he was like, that's not what we do. He said, what we're doing. And I was like, look, I just don't get it, man. I said, the internet is just a handful of years old. You're asking people to what? Give their credit card information on this platform that they're barely used to, that they're dialing up from on a phone from their homes or offices. And he said, that's not what we're doing. He said, we are creating a new kind of customer experience. And he said, if we can deliver on that, then we win. He said, it doesn't matter what we sell. At the time, they were still just selling books. I think the news at the time was, oh, they're expanding into music, like CDs, things like that. But he said, it doesn't matter what we sell. He said, if we give people a good customer experience, they're going to come back. Just no matter what we sell. He said, that's what we're building, is a new kind of customer service platform. And that was 30 odd years ago. So being a journalist, it involves, being able to think critically, look at things through a lens that, you rely on your sources, you cultivate sources, you nurture relationships, and your sources are relationships. And you do what it takes to not only get a good story or stories, but you can speak very intelligibly about a particular industry or business set or trends or things like that because you have that lens. Accounting was just something that I found. It was a job that I got. And 3 decades ago, I got hired by Accounting Today. Eventually, they needed a tech editor. So I was that. I wrote for them. I left and then came back. So all told, around 13 years or so. And then I was freelance for a while. I've been freelance in my life several times because publications close or you move on, you're in between. Great thing about it is you can always write. So if you have good ideas and you pitch them, you can get published. I've been
Mhm.
published in a lot of places. And then I was with Accounting Web, which still exists. They're mainly a UK publication these days. But when they had the US site, I became the managing editor there and kind of changed around the editorial model. I started doing, curated articles for that really leaned up more on thought leadership and focused on the individual who was saying the things that they needed to say to help out the profession. It wasn't about me. I had a column here and there, but it was more, but I learned from everyone who wrote for us, from everyone that I met and all the conferences that I went to, all the interviews that I done, all the firms that I visited, year in and year out. You just learn from them and you use that collective knowledge to, hopefully share that out to the community. So when the Accounting Web job went away, it'll be 4 years ago this summer, end of the summer, I needed to figure out my place in the world. Do I go and just look for another journalism editorial type of job? Or do I continue to lean into the accounting space and figure out how I can serve? So I came up with this idea, kind of like when I got hired at Accounting Web, I started with the premise of what's missing. And the profession being at the current, kind of state of point of inflection that it's at and has been for, several years now. And I've seen a few in my time. This one's big. This one's at an existential level because accountants have an opportunity now to figure out what kind of accountant they want to be, what accounting actually is anymore. What is accounting work? Does the work define you? All these things. The one missing piece was that I noticed over years was there was a kind of a deep or inherent distrust of the technology companies that are trying to work with accountants either for them or for the companies that they serve. So you're selling to them or you're selling through them. Either way, you have to establish a line of trust.
Yep.
And I have found that and have real hard evidence to the fact that good content works. So what is good content? It is practical, it is useful. It can be anything from an article or blog to a podcast or video, webinar, even live events. All of that, anything you're putting out into the market that can be consumed and perceived and you can learn from it is a good thing if it has the audience thoroughly in mind, and they have the impression at least that the writer or the presenter of these things cares. Why do we go to the conferences that we do? To people, because we know that this event is put together by people who care for people who need each other. So I started Accountants Forward. It's my business. I work basically as a fractional content marketing and PR specialist. Because in this capacity, I can work on an individual basis with businesses that have that goal in mind, that they value accountants as partners, customers, as just in everything that they do. And so I help to put content and make connections and provide perspective where I can to help them to do a better job, because you both need each other at the end of the day. But you all don't always have the time
Yep.
or the trust or the capacity to just go and research all this stuff. And so when a company comes knocking on your door, you're just like, "Ugh, I don't know you, I don't have time for you." Like, that's, you want it to just be like, oh yeah, I know them, be happy to talk to them, I've heard of them, I met them at a conference, I saw this thing that they did. It softens the ground a bit, creates a level of conversation. It's kind of like, imagine you're walking into a pub, and it's a pub that people like you frequent. We don't really know anybody, and so you just happen to overhear. You're sitting at the bar, you happen to overhear a conversation, and it's a very natural thing, right? Just you're telling me the Kyle McLaughlin story. It's just like, you just like, all right, well, yeah, I really want to talk to this guy, but what am I going to talk about? But you overhear something and just be like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but I totally get like this issue that you're having with your server or with your software. Man, I just started using this thing, and man, I just totally get it." And you talk about the pain points. You talk about the things that are relatable, understandable, on the same level, and all of a sudden you have a real conversation. So you went from this, holding your beer, just kind of thinking to yourself, to this, and now you're in a conversation with the person next to you. That's my goal. That's what I want to do, because then all boats rise. When those relationships are better, I just help to make that, bridge that gap, if you will.
Yeah. Really interesting. What advice would you have to an accountant out there who feels like they have something to say, but they don't know where to start to share their voice? Like, what would the strategy be for them?
They could talk to me. It's funny.
What's a good starting place?
I do have a firm as a client right now, and I have another one that is kind of interested. It's usually individuals. It's someone there at the firm, a partner, a managing partner, somebody who's like you said, I've got something to say. And I do work with some individuals, and have, I'll name it, like Jackie Meyer. I've worked, when she kind of started doing Tax Plan IQ. She had wanted to get out speaking circuit. She wanted to kind of be seen in the space. So I kind of helped her with that a bit. There's another woman, Erin Diber. I worked with Erin for about a year and a half or so. And sometimes it's individuals at software companies, like my buddy Ben Taylor at SoftLedger. SoftLedger is a great company that nobody in the accounting space really knew about. And they created something, very unique. And he didn't want to talk about how great the product was, but he wanted to talk about some of the pain points. He himself is a CPA, right? So he's already relatable. And the firm that I'm working with right now, CPA firm, they have a product that they want to start putting out in the market. Same exact problem. How do I do this? How do I get awareness? So we come up with a plan. It's not just one thing. So individually, man, it's right there in front of you. Social media is a great place to start. Look at the success that Jason Stats has had. I remember him back when he was working at a firm, and he just kind of started doing these little videos, little snippets of things that he, wanted to share. And all of a sudden it kind of grew into a thing that became him. And now he's an educator and he's a motivator and he's, all these things
He's a
that are
media company.
needed. Yeah, he is a company, and now he's on the he's got some new gig now. He's on the recruiting side of things. The point is, he decided at some point several years ago, like, I like this. I like doing this. I like helping out my fellow accountants. I want to put things out there that are going to help them. You start doing it. It really is as simple as that. Now there's so many there's so many, podcasts and stuff out there and social media. And, obviously for me, like I do, sure, individually, I've got personal connections at every single accounting publication out there. I have personal friends who are, they trust me. I'm not going to come to them with BS. I'm not going to come to them with just someone who just wants to be published. Like, I'll work with them and be like, all right, well, let's talk about some of these ideas. What do you want to say? What are you passionate about? What are the things you want to be known for? And we come up with a plan and a cadence. And usually that cadence, they don't understand. And it is a commitment. If you want to be known for something, you have to commit to it. I learned that as a writer too. Like you have to keep doing it. Otherwise it just becomes like a hobby or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big story goes down to it. If you want to be successful, you got to put in the hard work, right? And that is something we
Well,
can't
just
forget
just
in the
dedicate
reality of
time
this
to
new
it.
world.
It doesn't have to be hard, Zane. It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
hard at all. It's
you have to put in work, I guess, would be a better way.
exactly. Yes, you have to be committed to it, right? You got to do, you block out time in your diary to just do it. And this is my time. Like I wouldn't say I go to the gym every day, but I go enough that it's working for me. But I have to put that time in to the diary. When it's done, I block out that time. I said, this is what I'm doing. And when I'm writing, when I'm like, oh, I got to write these pieces or I got to do some editing work, it's there. You schedule it in and you're committed to it. You don't waver from it. Obviously life happens. You got to pick a kid up from school or something happens, whatever. Things happen. By and large, you schedule it in and you do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
I hope that answers your question.
It does. And I mean, I think one of the things from that is like, everybody's like, oh, I'm too busy to do it, right? But if it is important enough to you and you really value it, you'll find time for it.
But you find
And
time.
it's a step that I tell everybody to. Sometimes you just need to step back from your life and go, what are the most important things in my life? And
What
make
matters?
sure that you're
Yeah.
finding time for them, right?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah. Like the
I get up
band
at 4:30 to
thing,
work, but I get up at 4:30 to work so that I'm available to my children in the afternoon when they finish school at 3:30. I don't get
and
up
good for
4:30
you.
because it
I
makes me
would
happy.
never do that. But there was a time where it was, yeah. I mean, when they were much, much younger, it was like, back when it's like, oh, it's feeding time. But my wife and I we kind of worked out. Our first one was a real lesson teacher. We decided to get eventually systematic about it. We started writing things down. When did he eat? When did he sleep? Did he poop? Did he pee? What did he do? We wrote everything down. We had a ledger. We literally had a ledger. We just wrote everything down at timestamps because we were just you're just so bleary eyed from just everything. You're trying to sleep, you're trying to work, you're trying to eat and take care of yourself, in addition to taking care of this new human. And so yeah, 4:30, if they're up, they're up, and someone's feeding, someone's doing something. So, but yeah, no, to your point though, yeah, you're blocking out that time because it matters to you. You want to be dad who's there to get the kids out the door, get them what they need. If you make them breakfast, whatever. My kids still get pissed when I don't make them breakfast. I'm like, dude, just grab a thing. You can throw some toast in there. You can heat up a sausage, like whatever you want to do. They're both like into protein bars these days. They're both go to the gym and they're athletic and stuff like that. I'm like, grab a protein bar and some juice and get the hell to school. I'm gonna cook for you. Wait till the weekend.
Yeah,
Cook. I don't remember my
I'll be
parents
like, I cook
cooking for
dinner for you
me when
every night.
I was a
I'm not
teenager.
cooking you breakfast. Like, you can figure breakfast out yourself.
Yeah, I just sort that out, man. Here's some cereal, whatever. And of course, I buy them cereal they ask for, and guess what? It sits there because Dad's not pouring it in a bowl. I'm like, you kidding me?
Oh
You're
gosh.
get out of here. Now I do cook. I love cooking. That's another thing I'm very passionate about too. I knew if journalism wasn't a thing, I was gonna be a chef. I
Oh,
love cooking. My wife doesn't get it. She's just like, I can't, do the shopping, cooking. She's like, it's not her thing. She has her things she likes to do, and that's great. But I just genuinely enjoy it. Being in the kitchen, getting set up, preparing a dish. I do. I dig it, and I feel like I've expanded my kids' palates in some way because I know enough about good cooking to know what goes into it and how to do it. And, so dinner's kind of my thing, and yeah, sometimes lunch. But when I can make a big meal, makes me happy.
yeah, I love cooking as well, but I never thought of being a chef. But that's mostly because I
Yeah.
thought I couldn't be around people all the time, and I couldn't even be a server in a restaurant. I was a barman because I could swear at customers if they were assholes.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah. Seth, we are talking about time blocking, but tell me, what is a day in the life of Seth look like?
That is a good question. It does vary a bit, which I do like. When you work for yourself, you have to stay committed to those things. You have to write things down, you have to schedule them in, and stay committed as you can to that schedule. Like I blocked out this time, this hour of time that we have. I knew I was going to be talking to you. So this is what I'm doing for part of it. Before this, a typical day is, wake up around 7 or so, make sure that the teens are moving, eventually just kind of prodding them to go from bed to shower or bed to breakfast table, and they're doing their things. Occasionally I'll pack a lunch because eating out in the city can get pricey. And man, my kids are we've free school lunches. They're free. Don't have to pay for it at all. Free school lunches. They won't touch it. I said, well, it
My
must
kids
be
will
good to be.
only eat the free lunch at school. They will not.
I,
If I pack them school lunch,
they did.
they won't eat it.
In grade school, they did. Once they sort of got to junior high school and high school, they're like, yeah, all my friends go out to lunch. I'm going out to lunch. I'm like, well, you're taking at least one day a week, like you're taking lunch. So when I'm not packing a lunch, I'm just shooing them out the door. And while they're eating, boop, pop on, check my email. That's my time. Just kind of go through what came in. What can I respond to right now? Drink my protein shake, whatever. Respond to things, check social media a bit, use that sort of block of time. Once the kids are sorted, email is through. Gym down the street. I know, spoiled again. Don't have to get in a car to go to a gym. It's right down the street for about an hour. Come back, shower, back into my day. Meetings. I love meeting with people. I'm very open about that. I'm constantly advertising, like, just reach out to me. You want to talk about something? Great. Let's schedule. My Calendly is set up, so it's like you can have just quick 30-minute conversation with me. We can talk about speaking opportunities. We can talk about potential, content work, whatever it is. And I love that. I love when accountants reach out to me just to like kind of they want to just kind of talk about a particular thing. That's my favorite. So I'll never turn down a conversation, and I want to block out time, for that. And then there's the work that I do. I have to block, like if something's due, like I've got to edit something, I've got to pitch something, I've got to research something, depending what it is, I'll block it out for that day. I have a regular newsletter that I put out. Like today, I've got like after I get off of here, it's Friday. I got to make sure my next week's newsletter is set to go. I've got a great partnership with CPA Trendlines. So they distribute my newsletters called the Fineberg Review. And it's usually just either my musings on things or a collection of news that I find interesting. Maybe it's something that a client that I'm working with, a piece of content that they've shared, an interview that I help them get, or an interview that I did, like, once I get this is definitely going in my newsletter. I'm gonna say, Zane and I spoke, here's, so that goes out. And then at least once a week, if it's not on, I try to do it on the weekend, but sometimes like early in the week is, shopping. I'm shopping for the week. I block out that time if I got to do that. So that's only like once a day. Once a week. But sometimes I'm going out for, if it's later in the day, I usually go, okay, what am I doing for dinner tonight? All right, let me pop out to the shops. I'll get some fresh meat, some fresh veg, and I'll cook it for that night. You know, my wife always laughs at me. She's like, "Oh, you're going, you're running out again. You got to hunt and gather." I'm like, "Well, look, on a daily basis, I don't always know what is going to be for dinner. We try to have a, basic menu of things. I know what my family eats. I know what they don't eat. I know what people's schedules are different. I've particularly as kids get older, they get involved in other school activities or sports or whatever. So, oh, they're not going to be home until 8 o'clock. Or this one's going out to a gym with a friend, or they're not going to, but I cook. And so when I'm cooking, then I go out. And then, that's kind of, end of the day. And then it's eat dinner with fam. And then they're usually off doing homework. I do my word puzzles. I do several word puzzles every day. Keep the brain functioning. Then my wife and I usually will have a TV series or two that we watch. And that's it. Sometimes if I get an idea on things for like if my band like wrote a song, like right now we're working on several new things. So how I write is I don't come in with, oh, I've got all these lyrics. No, I want to hear the music first.
Okay.
And or if I'm working with a client on, and they've asked me to think of some ideas for things, sometimes I'll walk over to my desk and I'll write them down. So I'll get to them during work time. I've got pretty good boundaries, with things. I've learned from you all, from the best of you, on how to price out services, how to balance my time, and how to just not work when it's not work time. I don't check email on weekends unless there's like an outside thing. But by and large, as a rule, nope. Today's Friday. Things are going off. Once the computer goes off, it's off for till Monday. Those weekends, family time, band time, hangout time, whatever it is. Weather's getting nicer here, so I try to get out. And that's it.
So awesome. It sounds like a well balanced and great life.
I try, man. And obviously, this is kind of end of the year. This is a big thing, coming up in June. Both kids are graduating. One's getting out of middle school, the other one's high school, going on to college in August. So big life changes going on at my house. So and then it's conference season too. I am traveling to be among you all every month from this month. I just got back from Firm Growth Forum. Pretty much, yeah, every single month I've got something from now until December. There's a conference or two that I'm going to be at. So you'll see me if you're out.
If I show up at any conferences, that is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just anyone
Yeah,
watching this.
yeah, I know what you're saying.
But yeah, I do hope to see you. I love running into you.
Well, we're running out of time, yeah, but I'd love to hear from you.
We were just getting going, man.
We're just getting going. I know it always happens. I feel like I could talk to people for hours, but nobody wants to listen for more than an hour. So
Yeah. No, even that in the fact, I thank you. By the way, if you've stayed with us this long, you're awesome. Thank you for paying attention to us, and we're not just talking garbage over here.
Well, that's also fine. I'm learning a ton. This has been amazing, but I would like to, as like one of our last questions, just from the mind of Seth, what advice would you give accountants out there right now to allow them to have the best chance of be successful in what is one of the craziest times the profession has ever gone through?
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, in my 3 decades of time, I've seen different inflection points. Going back to when the ink was drying on the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, I think that fundamentally changed certain aspects of how accounting work was done. Desktop technology, moving people off of paper a bit more, cloud, moving everyone off of paper and how they work, and all of a sudden you're working in real time with your clients, right? Big, huge shift. But it took a while to take hold. And now
I mean, that's still in progress, which is the scary part of what everything else that's happening right now.
well, it's now AI time. It's time for this next level of automation. And it's forcing accountants to really start to think, how do I want to work? What kind of accountant do I want to be? I would say really kind of spend some time to do that. Figure out how you are going to have true life, work, balance, harmony, whatever synonym you want to put in there, fine, as long as life comes first. This is all we get. And we know you're passionate about what you do. Be easy on yourselves, easier than you are. We know so many of you put your clients first. That's wonderful. They know that. They know you care. Start caring about you. You can still serve them in the best possible way and look at the blockers. Look at the things that are maybe causing you to go, I'm just not working my best, or I'm working too much on too many things or for too many people. Why is that? And even incremental changes will take hold, and you'll enjoy what you do more because you'll have your life and you'll have your work and you'll have your soul, your everything that you are. You'll have your family and the people you care about and the life that you want. That's my advice to you. Start caring about you and to figuring out how you want to work, because nothing and no one can dictate that but you. Easier
Yeah,
said than done, I know, but it has to start somewhere. It has to start with a simple thought and a simple, I've had enough of doing things this way and I want to start going in another direction.
love it. That's great advice. I appreciate time on Protea Conversations. We like to end with some rapid fire questions, and I've got some
All right.
unique ones for
Gonna
you
get my
today.
catcher's mitt.
Exactly. Here we go. What is a dream vacation?
One that involves a good amount of relaxing, good food, and just in an interesting environment. Like I'm gonna see something I haven't seen before.
I'm coming to New York City. What is one show I should not miss and have to get tickets for?
Show? My band, of course. No, oh gosh, you're asking the wrong guy here. I am a poor New Yorker in that regard. We do go to shows. We do somewhat pay attention. I am really out of the loop with that. I would say anything that's not in Times Square or on Broadway right now. Do a little research. There's some great, off Broadway, even some in the outer boroughs, theaters that are putting on some great, great work by some amazing playwrights. You should give them a chance.
And every off-Broadway show I've been to, it ended up being some really famous TV actor that was out there running the lead, which was like, this is amazing. I watch this person's show
Yeah,
all the
like
time.
yeah, like
So
Eddie Izzard was doing like a
yeah,
whole thing for a while. He was playing a role and just a smaller theater in Greenwich Village and sold
totally
out.
worth it.
Sold out like every night.
What's your
That kind
favorite
of
New York City restaurant?
favorite restaurant. At the moment, it's mine and my wife's favorite. It's a little neighborhood Italian place called Lavagna. It's on East Fifth Street, and gosh, I love it there. But there's so many. It really depends on on just your taste. If you want sushi, it's this. And New Yorkers also love their pizza. It's not something I would be like, oh well, I'm gonna go out for a restaurant meal and just get pizza. But pizza is still essential to what we do. So my favorite pizza, ask any New Yorker. That's what you gotta ask them. Like, oh, where should I go for pizza? John's of Bleecker Street. Hands down. I've been going there since I was a kid. It's been open since 1929 in the same spot. So nearly 100 years doing pizza the same way. They have an oven that you can't even make these ovens anymore. Can't legally, like it got grandfathered into like there's several pizza places around the city that use some of these older ovens that you couldn't like build this legally anymore because they won't give you the permits to do it.
If you could see any band, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would have liked to have seen Black Flag in their day, like in their time. So I'd have to be transported back to the early 80s to see that. And I had a chance, a couple of chances. They were, but I was younger. I was a teenager. I didn't have a lot of money. Not that shows cost all that much money back then. I would have loved to have seen them in that time, and I regret not seeing them. They were touring all the time, and I'm like, oh, they'll come back around again. They'll come back around again. They never did. They broke up. Also, I would say, also going back in time, I'd say early 70s era Pink Floyd. I would have loved, loved, loved to have seen them. I was going to say Rush, who was another dear, dear to my heart band to have seen, but I've seen them. I saw them in the Signals tour, 1983. And that was a very, very moving experience.
Awesome. Final question. What would your final meal be?
Now, it's pretty big. So I'd probably be eating for about a week. So I'd need to be alive for about a week so I could
It's
eat
just your
all
final
this,
meal. You
eat
could live
all
as long
this
as you like.
stuff.
Yeah.
No, I do have, I call it, whatever my, final meal, last rites meals. It ranges from pastrami sandwich from Katz's Deli all the way through a sushi from Nobu, steak from Old Homestead, ribeye, steak from Old Homestead. Yeah, it's a pretty wide range, and I've got a couple ramen places too that I want to throw in.
I love it, Seth. I appreciate your time, and thank you for being on Protea Conversations.
Thanks, man.
And with that, we ended another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insight from our guest and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Protea Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence, embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.